Yes, folks, it is I, your humble correspondent of critical thinking, Andrew Coppins, here for the next hour, part of the Millennial Conservative Resistance, taking over your weekend on Mojo 50 Radio. Yes, together with the Pat Oney Show and the HollowNet program, Pat Oney at 3 p.m., you've got myself, and then right after me, Matthew Holloway and the HollowNet as part of your Millennial Conservative Resistance right here on Mojo 50 Radio. Do not forget, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Parlay, at The Coppins Show. That's very simple. Coppens, Coppens, for those of you that are listening and not watching. Don't forget, folks, if you are listening via iHeartRadio, Spreaker, or the Mojo 50 Radio Facebook page, you can watch this show live, 5 p.m. every single Saturday over at the Mojo 50 Radio Facebook page. That's 5 p.m. Central Time for those of you not in the best time zone. But anyway, folks, you can follow me on the Twitters, on the socials, blah, 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 all of that wonderful goodness. But the thing I want you to do most is head over to the Critical Thinking YouTube channel. Because not only do you have an opportunity, if you're listening via podcast, to watch this show in its entirety over there, the replay of the show, but you're also going to get original content twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday, on the show. Every single Tuesday and Thursday for your pleasure. And my goal with this is to bring out data, bring out points, and really dive deep into conversations that need to be had here in America that nobody wants to seem to have. Or if they want to seem to have them, it's all about demagoguery, and that's not what I'm about. So whatever shall we be talking about here on today's show? Well, of course, coronavirus. I know it's a completely unavoidable situation, so we're going to have to talk about it because it's the only thing that's really out there. But we're going to be talking about bigger ideas that our pandemic panic has really brought about. So I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about broader topics than just the minutia. Because there's a lot of minutia and a whole lot of people not thinking about broader context when it comes to coronavirus. So what does that mean for today's show? Well, we need to have a serious discussion about Joe Biden, America. Serious discussion about Joe Biden, because once again, he crawled out of his hole, did a couple of media interviews and went right back into it because, my God, is that man absolutely unfit to become president of the United States. That's nothing to do with his political policy prescriptions for America or anything else, and we'll get into that later in the show. We will also tackle authoritarianism. Bad for Trump, but apparently totally cool for our wonderful governors across the fruited plains of America. So I'm going to talk about that, as well as the fact that one side produces outrage, the other side produces claps from our frenemies in the media. Babylon Bee or Real News will also return because we need some laughs these days. And speaking of laughs, where have they gone from our late night comedians? Which brings me to claim number 1 from this week. We feel your pain. Speaking of which, feeling pain. Many Americans are feeling pain. In fact, 22 million of us, either furloughed, out of work completely, laid off, whatever is happening. 22 million people over the last 3 weeks have made new unemployment claims here in America. It's absolutely insane, the numbers, folks. Absolutely insane. But when that happens, people tend to not be able to live life as they have been previously, and that might lead to food issues. That might lead to not being prepared. Don't fall into that trap. Folks, be prepared. Head over to preparewithmojo50.com. Our friends at My Patriot Supply have your 2 or 4 week emergency food supply. They also have plenty of other things over there. Again, that's preparewithmojo50.com. And I cannot emphasize this enough. The discussions that we have had in my family are about how do we prepare for those things. You know, some of it is stocking up on essential items, but also a lot of it is what happens if we are both out of work. Most Americans do not have enough in savings right now. Most Americans don't have the savings to survive paying mortgage, rent, plus food, plus everything for very long at all. So why not take one little aspect off the table. Head over to preparewithmojo50.com, preparewithmojo50.com. Get yourself a 2 or 4 week emergency food supply. I cannot highly recommend this enough, folks. Listen when we're telling you to prepare. It is vitally important. So, again, preparewithmojo50.com, preparewithmojo50.com, and now be prepared to see the craziest thing I have seen during the entire coronavirus pandemic panic brought on by our media, our late night talk show friends, and our friends over at the Democratic Party. Because what was this between Nancy Pelosi and James Corden this week?
Welcome back. We're here with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and we've asked her to share something from her home for a little late show and tell. Speaker Pelosi, what have you found? What are you going to share with us from your home?
Chocolate.
Really?
Chocolate candy.
Oh, wow.
And this is something you can get through the mail.
Okay.
Never run out. Can I show you?
Me. Yeah, absolutely. This is the episode of Cribs I never knew I needed. Oh, my. Wow.
Other people in our family go for some other flavors, but chocolate, and then we have some other chocolate here.
See, I've always felt a connection with you, and now I understand why.
Mm-hmm.
Since you've been isolating in your house, how much of your regular diet do you think is ice cream and candy?
Well, as much as possible. It is. I enjoy it. I like it better than anything else. And I don't know why, but it seems to agree with me. I have a lot of energy, and we just got it restocked with the ice cream right for Easter Sunday because we were, shall we say, enjoying. I don't know what I would have done if ice cream were not invented. I just wonder.
I agree. I don't know who I am without it.
Now, folks, what I want you to know about that video is I want you to think about the claim, right? The claim that we are investigating is that we feel your pain. Does that look like Nancy Pelosi is feeling your pain in any way, shape, or form? Does that look like somebody who gets what is going on in America? Does that look like anybody that's in touch with reality of any sort? I ask you those questions because congratulations, good for you, Nancy Pelosi. We get it. You've got millions of dollars. You can have those fancy $25,000 fridges and all the ice cream in the world, all the Jenny's ice cream in the entire world, which, by the way, folks, I would love for you guys to give me your suggestions over on Twitter or at the Facebook page. Just use the hashtag New Jenny's Flavors. New Jenny's Flavors. That's JENNI. New Jenny's Flavors. And the best of the bunch are going to get on this show or on our YouTube channel shows earlier this week, or later this week, I should say. So, folks, again, hashtag New Jenny's Flavors. I would love to hear what you would think there. But good for you, Nancy. You can stock up your fridge. You can do all of those things. You can, buy a second home or a third home and stock it all the way up with Jenny's ice cream as far as the eye can see. You can have all the chocolate, all the wonderful trappings of your success. I don't care necessarily about it, except that you got your millions not from necessarily anything that you did to earn those millions, but off of the backs of the American taxpayer that pay your salary and also happen to allow all of the accoutrements that you have procured over the years. So in this case, I do care about what image you're presenting. Again, let's take it back to the claim that we're looking at. They're feeling your pain, America. It was complete and utter tone deafness at the very minimum that came from Nancy Pelosi. They're playing like an episode of Cribs from that sycophant James Corden, okay? While another 5.5 million people claimed unemployment last week. 5.5 million more. That brings the total to over 22 million. Now, I'm going to want you to be getting a little bit of perspective here. So 157 million Americans is the estimate, or was the estimate, of the workforce. The amount of people that are in the American workforce prior to the shutdown was about 157 million. Okay. Now, we also know that it was about 3% or a little bit above unemployment prior to the panic pandemic and all of the shutdown that happened. We know those things. Now, if it's 157 million Americans that were in the workforce and 22 million of them have now claimed unemployment, that's 14% unemployment. And we have heard rates as high as potentially 20 to 30% unemployed before this is all over. Whether that's through furlough, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. They no longer have the jobs that are providing whatever income was coming into their homes. 22 million Americans are out there wondering, potentially, not all of us, but a lot of us are wondering where the next meal comes from. Why do you see the images that we saw from San Antonio last weekend where people were lined up in their vehicles for a food bank as far as you could possibly see, and probably beyond that? Some people waiting 24 hours just so that they could be at the front of that line. Why do we get people in Austin, Texas, going on CNN, letting them know that they serve about 50,000 people normally throughout a week? They've seen an over 207% increase in the people going to their food bank in Austin, Texas. That's just Texas alone. Can you imagine what's happening in places like New York, in places like California, or in the Seattle area, where these were the biggest hotspots of the coronavirus to date? Congratulations, you have all of the money in the world there, Nancy. You've got all of the access to your Jenny's ice cream and the $25,000 fridges. You claim to be feeling the pain of America, but what you're putting out in front of America is how rich you are and how great your life and grand your life is these days and how funny things are. There is nothing funny about 22 million Americans unemployed. Nothing. There's nothing humorous about showing us your vast wealth while the rest of us, those of us who are unemployed, those of us on furlough, have to struggle to pay bills. And by the way, it's you, it's Trump, it's the state governors that have caused this economic problem. It was your choices. The choices that you made, which, by the way, folks, if you want to talk about the choices being made, head over to that YouTube page. You can see all of it over at the lives versus livelihoods debate that I broke down in the last video on this YouTube page. It's your choices that set this all up. Look how rich I am and how little I care about you. Of course, I'm not saying don't have fun, don't laugh, or anything like that. I think it's important to do so. But folks, you're supposed to be a leader. Nancy Pelosi, of all people, is supposed to be a leader in this time of crisis. It's both a health and an economic crisis. And not only did Nancy Pelosi participate in this, folks, she put this out via her official Twitter page. That means not only did she participate in the taping of this episode, she participated in having her staff put this out. She does not control her Twitter. There's no politician that controls their own Twitter, except for maybe Ted Cruz, maybe Marco Rubio, and a few others. But Nancy Pelosi probably wouldn't know how to market Twitter or use Twitter if it bit her in the ass. So, not only did she have the tone deafness to participate, but her staff, the people that could have filtered that out and not made a big deal out of it, decided this was a thing that they were going to put out there. Somehow that humanizes her. Wouldn't the better thing, if you're really feeling the pain of the American taxpayer, the 22 million of us unemployed right now, Wouldn't it have been better if you showed a video of her working at a food bank or a homeless shelter or doing any sort of positive work in the community? Wouldn't have that been the way to show that you actually care? Again, that is the worst part of this, is the fact that her staff clipped the video from the James Corden segment and then decided to disseminate this. It's absolutely, utterly insane. So what that tells me, when you critically think about the claim that we just care about the American people, it tells me that they don't get it. And that large swaths of our political class simply do not get it at all either. Not just a Nancy Pelosi problem, not just a Democratic problem. It is a political class problem because they're fine. None of their jobs are in jeopardy. None of them are losing their paychecks. None of them have to navigate the insanity that is the unemployment sphere. None of them have to navigate the small business association. None of them have to navigate the loan process. None of them have to navigate any of this. You've created the problem. You've created the backlog. You've created all of it. You don't feel the pain of the American people. Now, if you need further proof, how about this little ditty from Pelosi earlier?
The delay and the denial cause deaths, and that's just the way it is. So we right now would hope that they would have learned from their mistakes. And so you can be sort of say, okay, let's go forward in a more well-informed, scientific-based way. But if they're not going to do that, I think it's really important that we declare that we must. The scientists must speak out. Some of us who didn't want to appear political, wanted to do this bipartisan, nonpartisan way, are finding out that not to speak is very political because it is costing lives because of any concern we may have of not appearing political.
Bragging about stopping further help coming directly to the American people. We're talking about another $250 billion that were supposed to go into the Small Business Association loan program, which, by the way, ran dry last week. That is another indictment on this idea that they feel our pain. They have no clue about the economic damage that has been created by their decisions. If they don't understand the problem, how could you possibly say that you feel the pain? How could you possibly understand how to fix it? How? You can't. All right? So, what we just saw from Nancy Pelosi in that video is a perfect example of that. Totally looking out for the American people and not playing politics at all. It's just ridiculous. Okay? Absolutely ridiculous. The other part of this, okay? The final part of this claim that they feel the pain of the American people. Even if you just want to play the political game of Pelosi and Schumer and all of those guys and gals, if you wanted to play the pure political game, wouldn't the political game be putting out a massive package that is marketed, that is purely for the American worker? A relief program for those frontline individuals. Put it out there. Do it. Create your own narrative. Put out a package. Pass it through Congress because remember, you guys control the House of Representatives. Then put it on the desk of the Senate. Maybe the Senate passes it. Maybe they don't, in which case you've got to win politically over the Republican Party. See, they don't care about feeling your pain. You win there. Or maybe Donald Trump says, "Are you insane? I am not signing this bill." And the media will just carry the water, never mind sweeping under the rug all the poison pills that were likely in this bill. You win again. You win again. But yet you don't want to seem to understand the basic pain that the American people are going through. Again, I will say this 1,000 times over. The American people will suffer pain if it means results at the end. if it means sacrifice, we have sacrificed over and over and over again in this country, whether that's through the revolution, the bloodiest war in American history, the Civil War. You look at World War II, you look at Vietnam, you look at all of the sacrifices. They are willing to sacrifice the insufferable in many cases. But you got to make sure that you connect with those people. And none of you do. None of you do. Least amongst you, Nancy Pelosi. Okay, folks, but before we head into break, I want to play this little ditty, have a little bit of fun from our friend over at Nation of Jake. The guy is just a great parody individual. And on the flip side, we're going to contrast this bit of comedic genius versus what happened over at the late night comedy circuit.
COVID-19 ruined graduation. Hope it doesn't mess up my summer vacation. Cancel the appointment to remove my braces. Really not helping with my awkward phases. Hair hanging in my eyes and I can't see. Barbershop closed 'cause the quarantine. Dad grabs the clippers and gets ready to buzz it. Mom says stop, no, let me cut it. Got a homemade haircut from my mom. She made me look like Kim Jong-un. Got a homemade haircut from my mom. Now she's my date to the homeschool prom. Homemade haircut from my mom. Now I look like Kim Jong-un.
He's defunding the World Health Organization during a global pandemic. Brilliant! It's like when your house is engulfed in flames, first thing you do, burn down the fire department.
Defunding at WHO in the middle of a pandemic is like pulling the plug on firefighters in the aftermath of 9/11.
Is like shooting at an ambulance because you don't like how quickly it responded to its first call when you still have patients lying out in the street, bleeding, needing responses.
Stopping funding to an organization that handles pandemics in the middle of a pandemic is like slashing your own tires because you're mad you woke up late for work.
One would think that this would be cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Defunding the World Health Organization in the middle of a pandemic is about like me refusing emergency trauma care to a teenager in a car crash because a police officer told me that he was texting and driving.
It's the same reason you don't give your Uber driver 1 star during the ride. You do that shit after you're safe at home, not while you're doing 90 on the freeway. 1 star? Huh? 1 star? I'll show you 1 star, mother...
Bring those chips in. Yeah. The movement's in motion to sit around and do absolutely nothing. Check it out. Chilling in the name of. Some of those who own houses should remain on their couches. Some of those that rent houses should remain on their couches. Some of those in townhouses should remain on their couches. Some of those without couches should go out and buy couches. Chilling in the name of.
And of course, do not forget, hit up the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram at The Coppins Show. On the flip side, like I said, we're going to have a lot of talk about the late night comedian circuit. We're going to talk authoritarianism, bad for Trump, good for the governors. And we'll play Babylon Bee or Real News if we've got some time. Right here on Mojo 50 Radio. your pain, America. That is the lesson that Nancy Pelosi and the late night comedy host would like you to learn. They are in touch. Never mind what we just went through on the first half of this show, that they're definitely not in touch. But I wanted to point out not just the political out of touchness, but the out of touchness of the entire late night comedy set. In so much as they're not funny, their shows are not all anything about comedy. They've just turned into political talk shows. They've turned into much like my show, only my show actually deals with reality, and their show just deals with whatever they think would make a comedic joke. I mean, who died and made these people into political talk shows? And somehow their opinions are the only opinions that you need to listen to. I will never, ever, ever say here on this show, again, you're tuned into Critical Thinking here on Mojo 50 Radio, I will never, ever tell you that you must believe my opinion, that you must believe what I'm telling you. I highly encourage you to do your own research, to dig into what I'm telling you. Let me know if I've got something wrong. But these people, they're going to scold you until you believe exactly what they tell you to believe. And I will just give you a few headlines and a few clips from just one day, one night this week. Check out this headline in a group of clips that came in from this website called Grabian, which do a great job of clipping together a lot of political news and everything else, okay? But let's just check these out. Kimmel, Trump is determined to reopen America like a bankrupt casino. Kimmel on Michigan protesters. The problem with Americans is you just can't make them do anything. Myers, Trump's incapable of absorbing the reality that premature reopening will have a deadly consequence. Now, the point of that headline is that there's going to be a deadly consequence for what Trump may or may not be doing. Never mind the fact that Trump has not said that this is definitively going to happen. But hey, let's just play the clip and you decide for yourself if this is even remotely funny.
Public health experts are warning us that prematurely reopening things could have deadly consequences, just like waiting to act until it was too late had deadly consequences, and yet Trump is incapable of absorbing that reality. Just take this truly chilling anecdote from the Washington Post. Why don't we let this wash over the country, Trump asked, a question other administration officials say he has raised repeatedly in the Oval Office. Dr. Anthony Fauci initially seemed confused by the term wash over, but became alarmed once he understood what Trump was asking. Mr. President, many people would die, Fauci said. Okay. And looking at your faces, I'm guessing that's bad. That's a bad thing? I mean, think about that. Fauci actually had to explain that to the president. No wonder he covers his face during press briefings. Soon he's going to start dressing to blend into the background completely. Fauci, I know you're here, Fauci. I can hear you sighing. I'm not going to hurt you, Fauci. I just want to talk to you. Trump seems intent on repeating all the same mistakes he made at the start of this crisis. For example, Trump has repeatedly bragged about his China travel ban, even though the New York Times reported that 430,000 people have traveled from China to the U.S. since coronavirus surfaced, and that, according to a genetic study, most New York coronavirus cases came from Europe. New research indicates that the coronavirus began to circulate in the New York area by mid-February, weeks before the first confirmed case, and that travelers brought in the virus mainly from Europe, not Asia.
What I just played for you was not fun or funny. It was actually painful to watch. I mean, the impression was awful. The facts were just god-awfully biased. And most importantly, he only presented one part of the issue. It was just all sorts of terrible. It was MSNBC on crack. And yet these people are somehow superior. Their air of superiority that they have to them. If you want to entertain us, great. If you want to tell jokes, great. Look, I will laugh at any political joke. In fact, I find a lot of political jokes at the expense of Donald Trump to be very funny, but none of this was funny. Again, folks, they're telling us, we feel your pain and we're here to entertain you. Are they really? And I bring this up because last time I checked, okay, these types of shows, at least in the age of Carson, at least in the age of Leno, were supposed to bring Americans together to forget about what was going on in the world. Instead, all I see are these shows trying to drive further wedges between an already divided American populace. It's absolute insanity that these individuals think that they're so superior to the rest of us that they must give us their opinion on every single political topic as if they're the know-all, end-all, be-all, and then try to spin some comedy out of it. Please leave the political posturing and the grandstanding to the professionals over at CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. Speaking of that set, earlier this week, President Trump made the claim of having total authority when it came to making the decisions about reopening the country's economy. He literally said total authority. Pretty sure by now, since it's Saturday, you have seen that clip. And it wasn't the first, nor the last, and nor the most alarming authoritarian comment that Trump has made or will make in the future. Look, Trump's authoritarian statement this week was certainly alarming, especially if you take him at his word or you've listened to the myriad of mainstream media telling us how terrible all of this is and how nobody should be that authoritarian. Okay, so I want to lay this out very clearly for you. No, President Trump, you do not have total authority. That is not how our federalist system of government works, not at all. But then on Wednesday, he told us in his press briefing that he was going to force Congress to adjourn. Who the hell does this guy think he is, right? The outrage from the media. Constitution, the media says. Except all of those leftists who decided to actually open up that Constitution in their pocket or, peruse it online. Oopsies! Turns out that in the Constitution, Trump actually has that power. Check out this tweet from presidential historian Michael Beschloss, as he states that the Constitution says the president may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. Again, that literally says in the Constitution that Donald Trump or any president has the power to do so. Now, it's true that this power has never been used, never, ever been used before, but this is a power that the president does have. And last I checked, of the three branches, they're supposed to be co-equal branches, but if you boil it down, the real authority comes from Congress. Okay? The real authority comes there. Then the president acts as the check on the Congress by either signing a bill or deciding not to sign the bill, in which case the check on his authoritarian power there is that Congress can go back if they have enough votes and say, no, we're good, we're going to continue to pass the law. And as the ultimate check on that, what happens? You have the Supreme Court, who's supposed to make decisions on the laws that have been passed, according to their constitutionality. Now, not only did President Trump say that, and the leftist media freaked out, but they failed to realize one key fact in all of this that would even prevent Donald Trump from doing that action. And that's the fact that they have figured out a way to call Congress in a pro forma fashion, meaning every couple days during recess, what they do is they will call a quick session of Congress, then adjourn Congress, then adjourn the Senate, so forth and so on. And what that allows them to do is technically stay in session while being in recess and thus avoid the presidential power of recess appointments. It's been going on for at least 2 decades now. So even if Trump were to adjourn Congress, all they would have to do is go into pro forma session and his power would be blocked. So here's a quick rule for everybody when it comes to Donald Trump in this idea of authoritarianism. It's clear to me that he would love to have the power, the total authority, if you will. But Here is the hard and fast rule when it comes to Donald J. Trump as president. Watch what he does, not what he says. Watch what he does. Don't pay attention to what he says. You will be much, much better off. Much, much better off with that realization in your back pocket. But we're not done with authoritarianism in the least here on the show. Before we get into that, I'm going to tell you about the authority in coolers. Yes, cat coolers, folks. Some of the best coolers on the market. As we head towards summer, as we hopefully are starting to open the economy back up, beaches in Florida are now open. What better way to keep beverages cool than a cooler that actually keeps them cool? That is cat coolers to a T. They are rough, they are rugged, they're durable, and they last, folks. And they keep stuff cold up to 7 days cold. catcoolers.com. Tell them Mojo50 Radio sent you. catcoolers.com. So speaking of authoritarianism or authority, we just got done talking to you about the freak out that happened over Donald Trump and his total authority comments, right? Well, let me also play you this exchange between New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy and Fox News' Tucker Carlson for a second.
By what authority did you nullify the Bill of Rights in issuing this order? How do you have the power to do that?
That's above my pay grade, Tucker. So I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when we did this. We went to first of all, we looked at the data and the science, and it says people have to stay away from each other. That's the best thing we could do to break the back of the curve of this virus that leads to lower hospitalizations and ultimately fatalities.
And I'm not contesting that, though. I think I do think there's a debate. This is a rolling conversation because we're learning new things every day, and nothing is settled at this point.
Understood.
But I do want, since you are an elected official, a leader in the government, an executive, how do you have the authority to order something that so clearly contravenes the Bill of Rights of the United States, the U.S. Constitution? Where do you get the authority to do that?
Well, here's the thing. We know we need to stay away from each other, number one. Number two, we do have broad authority within the state. And number three, we would never do that without coordinating, discussing, and hashing it out with the leaders, the variety of the leaders of the faiths in New Jersey. We have.
Now, if that exchange doesn't chill you to the bone, I don't know what will. And last I checked, that was pretty much authoritarianism in a nutshell. It just came from the state governor of New Jersey. But if Trump's authoritarianism is bad, isn't the authoritarianism of a governor equally bad? Now, yes, for the 10th or 10,000th time, the 10th Amendment allows for all powers that are not delegated specifically in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and in the amendments to the Constitution from the federal government. All those powers that are not given to the federal government are to be given to the states. But that still does not mean the states have ultimate authority to do anything. They still have to abide by the rest of the Constitution, first off, and second of all, they do not have total authority to do anything and everything that they want. They cannot violate our constitutional rights. Okay? If Trump says he's got the ultimate authority, and he doesn't, neither do governors. Okay? Where is the freak out over the things that Murphy just said, or Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, or Wisconsin's Tony Evers, or Kentucky's Andy Beshear? Okay? Now, I want you to also hear this bit from Phil Murphy, because he talked about his rationale, the rationale that he used for the lockdown.
And I want to say at the outset that I mean this sincerely, I always presume good faith in the decisions that our leaders are making right now, because I know it's complex, especially for you, the most dense state in the country, second highest death toll. But there's a couple things that I find confusing, and I'd love to hear them explained. The first is the rationale for the lockdown. Now, you said early on the point was, and most governors said this, was to flatten the curve, to spread out the infection so our healthcare system didn't collapse. It didn't collapse. It came close, but it didn't. Now, today in your press conference, you gave a different rationale for the lockdown, and you said that you can't foresee normal gatherings continuing, I think it's a quote, until essentially there are no more cases. Why the change?
Again, it's good to be on with you. We believe completely that we don't get an economic recovery unless we've got a complete or near complete healthcare recovery. So flattening that curve reduces the amount of hospitalizations, reduces the amount of intensive care beds, ventilators, healthcare workers needed, et cetera. And so you want to get the line to cross between that and your capacity. If we had let this go, we think 3+ million New Jerseyans would have been infected. The number, thank God, is going to be a lot less than that, Tucker, but we're still not out of the woods yet. My comments today were directed at things like high school graduations, religious gatherings that folks had asked me about for June. And I can't say with confidence. I think April, the next couple of weeks, is going to be our toughest period. May, I hope, please God, assuming folks stay home, will be a little bit better. I can't predict with certainty into the summer. So my rationale's the same. I just got to make sure that I'm being straight with people about the timing and, frankly, what we don't know yet.
I don't know about you, but I mean, there's enough stuff here to make you go, I don't think that's how this works at all. Yet, nobody is batting an eye at it. In fact, let's contrast Trump's authoritarian statement with this from Andy Beshear, who had to, tell us that 7 churches were open on Easter Sunday. And this is his reaction.
So we're having to take a new action that I hoped that we wouldn't. It's that any individual that's going to participate in a mass gathering of any type that we know about this weekend, we are going to record license plates and provide it to local health departments. The local health departments are going to come to your door with an order for you to be quarantined for 14 days. That if you're going to expose yourself to this virus and you make that decision to do it, it's not fair to everybody else out there that you might spread it to.
What's worse, Donald Trump saying he has total authority, or Andy Beshear actually putting that into action? And yet our media is dead silent. Which, by the way, brings me to this headline in today's Babylon Bee or Real News. Yes, it's the game that's sweeping across the fruited plains, sweeping across the airwaves, across the video waves. The headline today: Kentucky orders all churchgoers to wear yellow crosses. The story: Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear has ordered all Christian churchgoers to wear a yellow cross to warn others they attended a religious gathering against the unilateral decree of the state. Law enforcement officials took down license plate numbers of churchgoers so their family could be given a set of yellow cross patches to sew on their clothing. Quote, "We must identify those undesirables who would dare attend church services in defiance of the state," the governor said. "Therefore, anyone who goes to church will be sent this fashionable yellow cross. They must wear it at all times so that others will know to stay away from them, ostracize them from society, and report their suspicious activity to the police." The state ordered all medical mask production facilities begin shifting production to the yellow crosses instead in order to meet demand. "This is priority 1, said Beshear. Should the religious gatherings continue, the governor says anybody with a yellow patch will be subject to isolation in government-run quarantine camps." The whole point here, I think you get the point that this is Babylon Bee. This isn't real news, but they're not far off, and that makes it great satire, but also scary. Where is the media calling this out? Where are the people rising against this? Luckily, we've seen it in Michigan. We saw it in North Carolina. We're starting to see it in Kentucky. We have got to take this to court. We have got to take these types of actions to court. The fact that the governors think they have the ability to just restrict your movement at their own whim, not based off of some perceived actual threat or some real actionable intelligence. And the fact that Beshear is going to dictate how you worship, when you worship, where you worship. It's absolute insanity to me. Yet we see it all the time. Well, let's go ahead and talk about something equally insane, which is Joe Biden. Now, I don't think the man is actually insane. I think he's actually mentally incompetent, and it leads me to believe he's got some underlying either mental or physiological situation that is helping to contribute to his mental decline. But this man is going to be the man that goes into the White House, according to the media. This man.
The average people, he's talking about getting us back to work when they don't even have the ability to get it. I got a call yesterday. How do I get a test, Joe? Joe, I think I have a problem, Joe. I sat with a guy yesterday on a telephone, and he's telling me, he said, I don't know. He said, look, I worked at the hospital. And he said, then I got myself in a position where I got the virus. So they quarantined me and they put me in the hospital, and I made it out. And so I'm out, but they don't want me with my family. I'm on the 3rd floor. I spent 15 minutes on the phone with him saying, he said, I have a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. And they come to the door outside and they just knock on the door and say, Daddy, can I see you, Daddy? Can I see you, Daddy? So we spent time going through it. I used to do it with my kids when they were little and I couldn't see them, and we'd play games. I said, make up a game, knock on the door and say, this is, it's practical things. The guy's scared to death. And he's worried about his children. He's worried about his wife. I mean, these are practical things. And the president talks about this like, okay, it's going to be okay. We're going to open tomorrow. We're going to do this. I mean, I must tell you, it drives me crazy. I don't know what he doesn't understand about people's fears.
That video is frightening on so many levels. It's just one of many videos, by the way, in this campaign in which Biden seems to lose mental focus, lose the capacity to think coherent thoughts, complete sentences, or any sort of, actual cogent thought. Now, did you also see the way that his wife was looking at him? It was almost as if she had no damn clue what the man was actually talking about. Almost as if you're watching a wannabe first lady see her dreams just bye-bye in one little clip here. Okay? That's scary enough. But, folks, this is a man who is within a whisker of becoming the president of the United States. We cannot elect that man to the presidency. This has nothing to do with his policies. I could give a crap less if he's a communist or if he's the most conservative person in the world. What that man in that video presented to the American people is a man mentally incapable of understanding information coming in, putting out cogent thought coming out, or being able to actually make life and death decisions for the American people. There's just simply no way that man can lead us through a pandemic. There's no way he's got the mental capacity to do that. Hell, if you've seen the video of Biden not being able to even read off of a teleprompter while Bernie Sanders is endorsing him, I want you to think about that. Let's combine those two thoughts, what you just saw, and that notion that he can't even look into a teleprompter, read the words that are going across the screen, and appear to give us a cogent thought. Now, I'm also questioning what in the hell is going on around Joe Biden and the camp. I mean, seriously, think about this. Seriously think. The people that are around him, from his wife, from his family, from the political advisors and the people on his campaign. It's clear to me that they don't give a rat's ass about his mental health. They don't give a rat's ass about anything other than getting within that whisker of the White House and the power that comes with a position in the White House. If they truly cared about the man, they would be pulling him off of the campaign trail. They would be making sure that he gets the help, the mental, if they actually cared about this man, they would be getting him the mental help that he needs, whether that's evaluations, whether that's doctor's appointments, whatever it is. It is very clear that this man is not mentally right. Now, you can quibble with Trump's style, his gusto, his outright lies, and all of those things, or you can hate his policies. But you cannot seriously tell me that the man is not mentally stable from a clinical perspective. You might say it's not mentally stable to be a pathological liar, whatever. That's fine. There's a difference between the man lying and the man not even knowing where he is or whom he's talking to, or that he's just rambled into one story from the next. That is not what Donald Trump may be a lot of things, but he's not mentally unstable. So I'm asking the people around Joe Biden, and I hope that you join me in this. I'm asking the people that are around Joe Biden to stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about him and get him out of this campaign. Get him out. He does not belong in the presidency, especially in these times. We don't know when the next pandemic might come. We don't know when the next 9/11 might come. We don't know a lot of things. And in those times of crises, we need a leader who can be at least focused enough mentally to understand the basic concepts, to project basic concepts to the American people. Joe Biden is not that man. I fully believe that Biden would be incapable of making the decisions, the hard choices that need to be made about reopening this economy 4 to 5 months from now. Because I guarantee you 4 to 5 months from now, even if we open back the economy right now, we're going to have another economic issue because we have stunted our way of life so badly, and we have stunted our ability to do the simple things like plant crops and start going through the process of providing food for us 5, 6, 7 months down the road. How do you think Joe Biden is going to handle that? I don't see a guy capable of doing that. And that should frighten every American. It should not make you vote for Donald Trump, because that's not what I'm saying here. But I am saying we need this man off the campaign trail for his own mental well-being and for America to be able to have at least a mentally competent leader in the White House, whomever that would be. Whether that's Justin Amash potentially running for the Libertarian presidency, or Donald Trump, or anybody else. Hell, even a Pete Buttigieg. At least the man has the mental capacity to understand the input of information and give out confident information. You can disagree with his decisions, his policy choices, whatever you might disagree with. But again, at least he's understanding and capable of understanding information and making rational decisions on the other side. On that note, that fine note, don't forget you can join my millennial brother from another mother closing out the millennial conservative resistance right here on Mojo 50 Radio. That will be Matthew Holloway in the HoloNet program coming up next. Until next week, be smart, be safe. Matthew 547.